Joining me now, Democratic Congresswoman from Texas, Jasmine Crockett, a favorite for us. So welcome. Can I ask you what kind of games are being played around these Trump debates? He's asking there, why should I do a debate? Isn't the question, don't the American people deserve a debate?
Listen, Alex, he's running scared. We know that Donald Trump doesn't have anything to offer the American people as it relates to policy and telling them something about how he's going to better their lives, because the only plan that Donald Trump and MAGA has for the American people is Project 2025. And we know that now that we have exposed Project 2025, he wants to run away from it because there's nothing good about it. So no, he doesn't want to answer the hard questions. That's why he had such a hard issue when it came for him to go to NABJ, right? He had actual journalism in his face, and he doesn't know how to deal with that. And we all know that every time he has to come in front of a prosecutor, it usually doesn't go very well for him. So Donald knows that every time he has to face a prosecutor, he loses. And he knows that right now, he is in a position to get lost. And listen, I cannot wait until the American people tell him peace and kick him out again on November 5th.
I feel like I should give you a mic and you can just do a mic drop right now. But let me ask you about the Veep stakes. Democrats tell Politico that one of the top priorities for Harris in choosing a VP is that person will help her beat Donald Trump. And some suspect that means she is going to lean toward a moderate. As a progressive, are you on board with that? I mean, who do you think most helps her win and govern?
You know what? I trust the vice president. She's very smart. I mean, listen, she got all the way here and she did it because of hard work and really understanding the system in which she's playing in. And so I absolutely think that she's going to make the right decision. As a progressive, I still feel as if there's an agenda that this president, soon to be president, will adhere to. When we look at the record of Joe Biden was actually known as a moderate. But when we look at his record and when history reflects on him, he has one of the most progressive records that we've seen in the history of this country. So I think that progressive policies are winning. Things like student loan debt forgiveness, things like what we just saw happen with the black farmers, the $2 billion settlement that's taking place, things such as making sure that the child tax credit is passed, something that brought 50% of African-American children specifically out of poverty. These things are winning issues for the American people. While it may not work for those guys at the top who are looking to get Donald Trump back so that we can end up adding another $8 trillion or more to our deficit because they don't want to pay their fair share when the Trump tax cuts are up in 2025, we are looking for someone that understands what it means to pay your fair share and what it means to have an opportunity to exceed in this country. And that's Kamala Harris. And so I think the progressive policies are policies that, honestly, the majority of Americans stand by. Now, do they really like the title progressive? Probably not. But I do believe that they stand by our policies.
Let me go back to the NABJ, which you mentioned, because some Republicans are cringing along with the rest of us after Donald Trump told an audience of black journalists that Kamala Harris all of a sudden decided to be a black person. You had Senator Lindsey Graham saying those comments were inappropriate and he'd prefer Trump focus on policy. Never deterred, though. Donald Trump is doubling down. What is his angle?
Can't help himself. I mean, the idea that she turned black. Listen, you know, it's like I've said before, if Kamala Harris would have gone in and tried to get an apartment from him and his father years ago, I'm sure they would have put a C by her name for colored, and they would have made sure that she did not have a place to stay. So for those black folk that think that Donald Trump really understands black culture or that he is fighting for us in any way, I'm here to tell you that he's not. It's the same old Donald that we've seen, from the guy that went after the Central Park Five to the extent that he wanted them executed. And right now we know that one of those amazing young men serves his community right now on city council in Harlem, New York. Listen, this guy does not care about our black lives, especially in the same week that we saw the slaughter of Sonia Massey. And he's out there on the trail touting about how he wants to make sure that there's going to be immunity for these officers. And when he's talking about immunity, immunity, he's talking about criminal immunity, because they already have qualified immunity, which gets them out of paying their fair share when it comes to the civil liability. This guy is not looking out for black folk. And when he had an opportunity to make sure that he could uplift a black person, maybe for his VP, he allegedly was looking at some black guys. But guess what? I knew he was never going to give them a shot. So let's not be fooled. The disrespect that you saw on that stage to those journalists and the way that he talked to them, and the way that he talks about our vice president, if he will talk about the most powerful black woman in the world this way, just imagine what he says behind closed doors about the rest of us.
Let me ask you quickly about what you're doing there in Georgia today for that counter event to Trump's rally and sounding an alarm about the Heritage Foundation's Project 2025. The head of that initiative stepped down this week after Donald Trump tried to distance himself from the 920-page presidential transition plan that was largely led by who? Trump's current allies and many former aides. So is this the end of Project 25, or would it and the people who wrote it become part of another Trump administration?
Listen, he ain't done with this. Like, this is a game. We all know it. And it's because we've sounded the alarms. They decided that they wanted to play in our face, and they thought because they buried it all in almost 1,000 pages that we would just ignore it and we wouldn't start to read it. But here's the deal. People are craving the information. They understand that our democracy is hanging by a thread in the first place. They've seen what this radical Supreme Court has done as it relates to our freedoms, and they are scared. So listen, I am here to do my part on behalf of Vice President Kamala Harris and the American people.
Okay, Jasmine Crockett, we'll see you again soon, we hope. Thank you.